So with that said, let's go ahead and get started in it. I'm going to show you.
Somebody said it was a war against the different countries. We would win because it's a different time than the last time.
Oh, okay. I get it. I got it. Took me a minute. I'm like, what? All right. I'm going to show you a photo. This is a photo that was taken yesterday. All right. All I want you to do is, so before I throw this up here, just as a few reminders, I do have to say this. Inside this room, you're safe in this room. Your opinions matter in this room. I'm not saying that because it's some script. It's because it's something I believe in this room. All right. So I don't need to hear people say things like, well, I don't mean to be offensive. You're not being offensive. Be respectful to each other. Listen, learn, communicate. Awesome. All right. I trust you guys anyways. Well, we're getting ready to go into it right now. So here's your photo from yesterday. This is a real photo. This is not doctored, altered, or anything else.
Oh, no.
Okay. There's your photo. So here's what we need, though. I need someone to explain the details of this photo. I don't need opinions here. I just need details.
Okay, that's kind of rude.
What's rude? Explain. Okay, so Xavier, let's start there. What about the flag?
It's not United States. It's like
okay. It's not a U.S. flag. Very good. What flag is it? What? Ish, not quite. It is a flag that starts with a C in some places, also starts with an R. I've heard both used so far today. Actually, 2 words that starts with an R that I've heard today.
I can tell you when it's not.
There's a lot of things.
It's not the Union Jack.
It's not the Union Jack. That's also very true. It is not the Union Jack. Marwa. No, it's not Russia. This has nothing to do with another country. Today is the one. Yep. Today is the day that we're not going to be hating on Russia for once.
Russia's a cool place.
Cool, cold, Siberia, winter, cold.
It's called a transpired flag.
Nope, not that one. What?
Wow, I'm surprised they don't have this.
Oh, no, that's
I've only had one class actually know what flag this is. Actually, I've only had one student know what it was initially.
Who was that?
Frankie. He has a mullet, wears a Bass Pro Shop hat. I'm just going to leave it at that. This flag has resulted in statues being removed last summer throughout the United States. It is not another country flag. It is a flag that has been in the United States, but it's not a United States flag. Not quite.
Is it called the true meaning of the Constitution?
Spell it. What do you got?
CONFEDERATE.
Very good. This is the Confederate flag, also referred to as the rebel flag by some. And earlier today, it was also referred to as the redneck flag.
The what?
The redneck flag, which I'm like, well, you know. All right, so background on this flag. This is the Confederate flag. This is not the original Confederate flag. I also need to throw that one out too. This is a flag that some people use in reference to the South when we talk about the Civil War in about a unit from now when the U.S. fights between the North and the South. This is the flag of the South, all right? It has been banned from many different places. You'll never find one in a school, or at least you shouldn't. NASCAR made huge news last year when they said it is officially banned from every NASCAR event, which really, if you know anything about NASCAR, that's a really big deal. It is seen as a symbol of hate. That's the other thing to keep in mind. So we know that we have a flag, obviously, and you guys already knew, even without the terminology, without the name of it, you knew it's something that's not necessarily a good thing. So we have a flag. Cool. We've got a person. He's wearing Carhartt, of course. Gosh dang it. What's the person not wearing? What's he not wearing? Something that all of us are wearing.
A mask.
Yep. So he's not wearing a mask. Okay.
Oh.
All right. So we don't have a mask. So we have an individual walking around with a Confederate flag. Photo was taken yesterday. Okay. Without a mask. Now tell me about the building that he's currently in.
The president house or something?
Is that the White House?
It is not the White House, but
Governor.
you're close with the White House. It's not the governor's house. You're very close to the White House. C.
The federal?
Con something?
The Congress.
I'm going to give it to you. This is the building that Congress is in. It's called the Capitol Building. Okay. So the Capitol Building is where Congress has their sessions, where they decide on laws and things like that. All right. So it's called the Capitol Building. It's a federal building. People, is it easy to get into a federal building? Can you just walk right in?
No.
No. There's security. There's metal detectors. There's all sorts of things to get in, right?
How they pushed it? Oh, I'm a whole lot. This is actually dude.
How did he get it?
So now the question, Artemio, is that right there. If we knew that security's high in a Capitol building where Congress is currently in session, how did this guy wind up in the Capitol building?
It's probably a lot of them. Like a lot of people.
So there were a lot of people involved. This is just
They
one.
come out with one boom, he's gonna fall.
So
He's one person.
he's one person. Now, what the photo doesn't capture is the quite literally hundreds of other people that are with him that are in the building. This, and again, I want to remind you, this happened yesterday.
Where? Here.
I heard something happened in Topeka too.
Yeah, the Topeka State Building got taken too, which I'm just like, of all random places, you picked Kansas? Yeah, the State House got
They got it in?
taken. They took the State House in Kansas. I'm like, that is not something you advertise as a win. You took the State Building of Kansas. Yeehaw. This one was not in Kansas. Where is Marwa? Where's Congress at? Washington, D.C. Very good. Okay, so this is taking place in Washington, D.C. Remember, Washington, D.C. is our national capital. All right. The people who are making choices for laws and the election are all in this building right now. What, Xavier?
What happened? They said move the two right in there because the president was lying for 4 years.
Okay.
Something like that.
So, yeah, let's run with that for a minute. So we had individuals show up in Washington, D.C., the city, to protest the election results again. When they're there to protest the election results, is there anything illegal about them coming together and protesting? No. That is a constitutional right they have. That is the First Amendment. You have the right to assemble. You have the right to petition. Those are two things guaranteed to you no matter what. So at that moment, what they're doing is completely 100% legal. Okay? They're okay to do that. The difference is when you go from having a protest to then going onto federal government property, do you think the doors were unlocked into where Congress was? No. Okay. They B&E'd that thing. They broke and entered. All right. They broke the doors down and entered through there. They entered through there. They occupied different offices inside the building looking for Congress folks. They sat at the desk of different people in Congress and left notes on their desk saying, "Watch your back. We will be back."
We won't back down.
Yeah, we won't back down. That's right. We won't back down. The folks who did that took selfies of themselves writing those notes.
Well, and
Okay.
the fact that they were looking for Congress shows a certain amount of intent.
Yep. There is a desire to cause problems. Here's the other thing. So I'm watching this all unfold live on television, right? And they're talking about these folks going from room to room, banging on doors to see if anyone's in there, right?
Where the police at?
So that's a great question. One thing we do know about the police, one, we know they're completely overwhelmed by the amount of people that entered the building. However, with that said, there's a lot of questions on where the police were and where
There's some
security was.
videos, too, that are gonna cause some.
Yes. Like, because here's the other thing about this photo. See this guy right here? We know that, is he legally, should he be in this building? No, right? Here's the crazy thing. He walked right on out.
Mm.
Without being touched.
He wasn't arrested or anything.
Oh,
Yes, Artemio. Yes.
What did you say?
Black people.
Yeah.
You're asking the right questions. Because I think collectively in this room, I'm really happy that we're in third hour right now. Collectively, I think in this room we could say, if this was Minneapolis, if this was Chicago, if this was even Kansas City last summer, if that dude, let's be very, very upfront and very honest with ourselves, if that guy wasn't white, it'd be a whole different story.
Mm-hmm. Because they more afraid of black people than other people.
So sometimes when we look at the chaos, when we look at the bad things that happen, sometimes we can find good things out of this. All right. It's a struggle, but sometimes we can. Because here's something good that we can find out of it. All this was broadcasted live on national and international television last night. Okay. Everyone saw this.
Well, and
It was
TikTok
it
and
was
so
like
those social
3 or
media
4
people
black
were
people
in there.
Yes. There's TikToks of people in the Capitol building. Like it was everywhere, right? Yeah.
On news, it said it was 3 or 4 black people in there, but they just walked out.
There were 3 or 4.
Yeah, like they were supporting him.
Really?
There were a couple.
I mean, I'm not shocked.
in there.
They didn't shoot to the car because other people was in the car. Goddamn.
Interesting.
Yes.
I didn't see any of them storming the building though.
Right.
Some of them walking away.
So the reason why this is so like pertinent is because we have to ask those kind of questions. I mean, first things first, we have people that are illegally occupying a government building. That's a problem. But the other thing is like it displays to all of us. Yeah. This shows all of us what racism really looks like. Because we all witnessed what happened over the summer. We all know what happened in Minneapolis. We all know what happened in Chicago, what happened in Louisville, what happened in Atlanta. We know about all of these. We've witnessed all of it. And then this happens. And there's no ramifications for it. 30 people get arrested. That's cute. There are more people arrested in Kansas City in July.
Most of all but 5 were arrested for curfew violations and not for that.
Not for even
5
breaking and entering.
were non.
And the thing is, we know their names. I don't know his name specifically, but the guy who sat in Nancy Pelosi, Congresswoman's place, sat at her desk and wrote that note. Channel 5 News from Northwest Arkansas interviewed him after the fact to get his thoughts on it.
Well, and then there's this TikTok person that was down in there, and he disguised himself, and he interviewed a lady and said, "What is your name? What state are you from? What did you do? Why did you do it?" She answered all of those, and it's all out there. And then there's another one where it wasn't the guy that was in the office in that photo, but he's holding up a piece of mail that he took from office.
Yep.
And his name and state is on that TikTok.
Yep.
So everyone's already starting to identify them.
But here's the thing. What consequences are going to happen because of it?
Nothing.
And so now we have another group of people, realistically, Xavier, that are looking at that going, now wait. They were able to do all of this and there's no consequence. I speak out against, pick something, I don't know, police brutality, and I'm immediately going to get arrested for it. Yeah, what's up?
It took to a tear gas when other people broke in like buildings and stuff. They threw tear gas, but what tear gas out here?
So there was tear gas used inside the building. Before they could use the tear gas, here's a fun little factoid about our Congress that I did not know until yesterday. So if you sit inside the chamber of Congress where everybody is making laws and everything, every person has an assigned seat inside that building. There's a gas mask for every person underneath those seats. And yesterday, they announced over the intercom, which they never use, it turns out. They announced over the intercom, all congressional members, grab your gas masks and please fix them to your face. Because the tear gas was just right after that.
Yeah.
So they grabbed it.
Correct.
They got tear gas. They didn't get any bullets. Nobody lost any eyes or anything from rubber bullets.
Correct. Four people died. One person was shot in the neck, which guess what? You try to break and enter into a federal building, you might get shot.
And she was the first one. She was the first one to go through the window, and that's why she was shot. And all those people should be brought up on murder charges because she was shot in the act of a federal crime.
She was shot. She died later on, and then 3 other people died from medical emergencies, most likely heart attacks, from what was going on. So this all unfolded yesterday. And here's the thing that really sucks out of all of it. Let's assume there's like 1,000. There's like 1,000 people or so that are partaking in all these shenanigans. 1,000 people just made the entire United States look like a joke to the rest of the world. Made you look like a joke. Made me look like a joke. Made all of us look like a joke because of their actions.
Well,
along with that too.
The fact that our people could just go and do that, well, so can everybody else. Imagine if you actually had an organized effort.
Oh yeah, we played the game, or not game. We had a conversation last hour of there was a lot of individuals who walked into this building that had backpacks. I don't know what was in the backpacks, but could you imagine if this was an organized attempt and there were explosives inside those
They
backpacks?
found 2 explosives.
Right.
There was a pipe bomb at the RNC and the DNC.
Like, could you, like, if this was actually orchestrated, like, this could have created, like, serious problems.
So, like people, like we all came together, right? We're in the rest of the government and stuff. We had, what they trying to go through?
No, you'd look more like a civil war. Really?
So at the end, who will win?
Well, and that's
No idea.
So like the flag, that's what it's kind of ironic about this
Yeah.
flag. So this flag is considered by some to be a traitorous flag because it was this is what the South used as their flag during the Civil War. So when the South seceded, basically in order to keep slavery, and the South seceded, this is the flag that they used when they declared themselves their own country, which is incredibly ironic that that's what they brought there.
It's also fascinating that the building, the Capitol building here, there was no Confederate flag that made its way into the Capitol building during the entire existence of the Civil War. It never happened. In fact, the last time, so the building was damaged from yesterday with doors being broken and windows being broken and such. The last time this building had any damage done to it was by the British in the War of 1812 when they burned down the White House. Like the last time any damage came to the building that you see in the background right here was when England tried to attack the United States Part 2 in 1812.
Well, and someone was saying that was the last time anyone had even overtaken
Oh, yeah,
the
absolutely.
building. Was
I got a
it?
question.
What's up?
And some people say the end, like, is it true the end of the world coming?
I don't know. I'll let you know if I figure that one out. You'll be the first to know. Otherwise, get some hot dogs on a stick and just let it roast. So the last question's this. And here's the part that I think is like super important. We already acknowledged in the beginning, this started as a protest, right?
I got a question.
Hold on. Hold that question. We started as a protest. By the end, when this photo is taken, if we were to label this person, what would we label them as?
Raiders.
Are they still
Wait, what did you say?
I said Raiders.
Raiders? You're the second person to say Raiders. Holy crap. Oh my gosh. Would we still identify them as protesters?
Yup. Nope.
What would we identify them as?
Thanks, man.
What word would we use?
We
have a group of people who incited unlawful violence in order to intimidate other people.
Our country. Well,
Colonists.
Well, why did they even do this?
Why were they doing it? Because they were upset about the electoral votes. So here's the deal. While this was before this was taking place, Congress was in session. They're talking amongst each other. Yesterday was supposed to be a very formal, by the book event where Congress counts the electoral votes from each state, acknowledges them, and then says, okay, Congress is officially declaring Joe Biden the winner of the 2020 presidential election. It's all formality. It's not a big deal, to be honest. It's just something they do because they do it. That's what they were doing. The protest was because of the constant arguing that the electoral votes were rigged and they weren't accurate. And that was led by a senator from the state of Missouri, by the way, in case you're curious about that one too. Hold on. Josh Hawley. So, well, this thing, we don't know who led this. I can't pin that on him, though I'd love to. Really, if you want to talk about who led it, I mean, I can't say that either yet. Yeah, there's a lot of people involved. You have a lot of questions.
Somebody on TikTok said they went in there to find stimulus check.
What?
To find their stimulus check?
Yeah.
No,
That's a joke.
that's a joke. Though I'd be kind of curious if I found one myself. So they were there counting electoral votes. That was the whole point behind it. So they all had, so Congress had to be evacuated. They all took shelter in place, which teachers are sitting back going, oh, you're upset because someone's banging on doors looking for people to potentially harm them? Yeah, we get training on that every year. I'm thinking about mailing a paracord to my senator and saying, hey, this will help for next time. A little tongue-in-cheek sarcasm there. So they're in the building. They've been evacuated. These guys are in there. What label do we use to identify these people right here? Nope, we already said they're not protesters. What would be a term we could use? And also, unlike what some news agencies said, anarchist was not correct. Anarchists just want to disrupt the government to dissolve a government to have no government. These folks were not intent on that. It would not be good. Why? Because you know this from your philosophers. Humans left alone without any organized government will destroy themselves. That would be Hobbes. There's always going to be a leader. Humans inherently want to be led. That's Montesquieu, another philosopher. So what's the term we're using for these folks? If they're not a protester and they're inciting unlawful violence to intimidate, what kind of terminology would we use? What would you call a person who is trying to deliberately attack and unsettle people and to scare them using illegal tactics? Nope. Criminal, think deeper. It's a term we use all the time. At least since 2001.
Deeper than the criminal?
What kind of criminal? No raiding. They're not looking for loot crates. What kind of person would that, what kind of label would we use for this? It's hard when it's a U.S. citizen. It's easy when it's somebody that's not in the U.S. We've used this term. No. We've used this term to label people, to discriminate against people, to make travel bans against other countries. That happened last year. Yeah, it's true. It started 4 years ago. Man, it's hard to believe it's 4 years ago. Artemio, what's the word? No idea? You guys do know this word, though, because I know all of you. What? What? Racism? Not quite.
Illegal.
Illegal? Well, it is illegal. That's true. I'll give you a hint. It starts with a T. We use it as a term to label other people frequently.
Terrorist.
Very good.
That took so long.
It took so long, but we're all sitting there going, oh, yeah, you're right. Here's the domestic terrorists. Here's the problem that we face in today's world. Unfortunately for us, the way that our culture is set up, when we say the word terrorist, we have a very narrow-minded viewpoint of what a terrorist looks like. But when you look at the definition of terrorist, you will find it is a person who uses unlawful means of violence to intimidate. Were they violent yesterday?
Yup.
Yeah.
Did they break the law?
Yeah.
Did they attempt to intimidate?
Yup.
Does that fit the definition of terrorist?
Yup.
So this person in this photo, would we say that they're a protester?
No.
No, they're a what?
Terrorist.
I will put my job on the line for that every day of the week.
Yeah, I don't think I
I'm
was
still
thinking
stuck on why they did
that's what they were calling on the news.
About what?
I want to be a terrorist.
Why they did it?
it?
They did it because they were attempting to, in the beginning, they were trying to protest the electoral votes,
I had a question.
saying that Trump should have been president.
Wait, hold on, you have to wait, you can say, if you say you have a question, you have to wait until it's
But-
your turn to talk.
Honestly, Malik, it's as basic as you think. Like they were trying to argue something that was already set in stone. Like that's the part that is bizarre. It's like you're protesting this, and you can, but nothing's going to change. So you're going to be violent about it, but nothing's still going to change.
Well, see, but if you think about it, if like they were attempting to go in, and if you're, then the only thing that they could be attempting to accomplish is to change it, which would then make it a coup,
Right,
an attempted coup,
right.
which would also make them a traitor.
Correct. And so because of that, so imagine this, you're trying to change something that's already been set in stone. You're trying to go against the foundations of your government, which would make you a traitor. And if you're the person in charge of this group and you are choosing not to tell them to stop and go home, would that also put you in the same position?
Yep.
And that's why there's an argument right now on the table of introducing the 25th Amendment
Yeah.
to remove President Trump from the office of the presidency.
Yeah.
Like this is so much closer to removal than that impeachment process was. Oh my gosh, it's so much closer. What's up, Xavier? Poor thing.
All right. So if they fought to the White House, would that be business storm?
If they went to the White House, they might be invited in.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
that would have been like, yeah, I mean, they would have been pointless also because they were supported by the White House.
And the other thing about that is the White House wasn't the one that was counting the electoral votes. They don't have any power in this process. It's Congress that does. So they went to the place that had that authority.
Which also speaks for motivation for that.
Yes, most definitely.
So if they
Traitor.
did it- so they'll do the same thing or it'd be different stuff.
Possibly. Now, here's the other thing to remember out of all this, and this is why it's so important for all of you. Understand, this is something that has never taken place in the history of the United States. This is brand new. This is unseen.
People did them to shops.
But we've never witnessed our own citizens attack one of our federal buildings in Washington, D.C. in an attempt, as weird as this is, in an attempt to change a presidential election that had already been completed 2 months ago. Like, never heard of before. Which makes it kind of unsettling.
Which I have my
So
own theory on.
we will lose the war
why.
because we don't have weapons.
What?
We will lose the war because they have advantages. We don't have weapons.
Who didn't have weapons?
If you had a war, they will win. They have advantages. We don't have weapons.
Oh, dude.
Right.
You're underestimating where the weapons are.
Who doesn't have any weapons?
Like if it was us, like us,
Define us.
like a group of people,
Uh-huh.
like an American group,
Okay.
versus the government. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like there's weaponry that obviously the government has that the average citizen doesn't have, but at the same time, you've got almost 380 million people armed.
Yeah, but you would have to organize all 380 people.
Mhm.
And I still think if you mean like all of the citizens of the United States go up against the entire government.
Right.
You still have, I mean,
It
not
would-
all 380 are, all 300 would have to be organized. 380 would have to be armed, which not all are.
Now, I will say this though. One of the things to remember is the United States has for its size, has an alarmingly small military. Like
Yeah, but
alarmingly small compared to other countries. The other point is this though, if you're talking about us versus them kind of bit, thank you. You also have to consider this concept as well. If the government's ordering them to fight against their own citizens, you're also going to have to deal with the fact that individuals in the military may break rank and choose not to, because that happened in the Civil War frequently. So there's a lot of what ifs in that scenario.
Other people, they own gun shops.
Yeah. What about them?
So if this say if it happened and we won, what would happen then?
What do you mean?
Like if it happened and we took over, what would happen?
If we took over the United States?
Yeah.
Dude, so remember this. Xavier, do we vote for people to be in position in the United States?
No.
And can we remove them?
Yeah.
So technically, we've already taken over the United States. Like, that's one of the things to remember, though, in the end, and this is super important. In the end, we, the citizens, like, we are the ones who control the government. We are the ones who determine who's going to be in position. You do that with your senators.
Yeah, but the loyalists will come on the other side.
Nice terminology use. And that's why we have, but that is why we have elections. Now we just can't seem to have a peaceful transition this time for whatever.
But ultimately, we, the people, won.
Yes.
Because we, the people, voted for Biden. The majority of the popular vote voted for Biden. In the end, they did not win. Biden has been certified as our.
That's probably the craziest part of all this is no matter what they say, do, et cetera, this group, like, it's already set in stone. Like, you're getting a new president January 20th, one way or another. Like, there literally is no legal proceeding to remove or to change. Like, it's not going to happen that way.
And,
What? One more question.
Somebody said, next election, Obama will come back.
He can't. He ran for 2 terms. Constitutionally, he can't. Our team, yeah.
Okay, so I saw this one thing on social media. I saw like this one good thing, and there's like a rope, and then they like.
Oh yeah.
They said.
Well, hold on, let him finish. Oh,
Yeah,
I
what's
saw
the
that
name
too.
of it?
I don't know.
It
That's real.
Somebody
They're-
said if they pull out a year, it's gonna be war.
Yeah, that's what they. Yeah, that's what they said. I saw that on TikTok.
So,
are you talking about where it looked like they had created it was a wood
Yeah, a wood
stool
thing.
and there was a noose hanging?
Yeah.
from it? I saw that too. I also saw people flashing the white supremacy sign
I'm
on
sure.
Fox.
Somebody said if
Also
they pull out
true.
a year, it's gonna be war.
Yeah, it's gonna be-
Okay, so the background. So, do I have to give you the background on that one?
No, we already know.
Okay, I'm like, do we have to go to that one? So I will tell you this story though, tied to that. So I taught in this small town near Springfield, Missouri. In small towns, you're going to find every so often that they have weird laws that were created in like the 1800s that they just never removed from the books, and so they're still technically there.
Yeah, they did a thing on that last year.
Oh yeah,
Weird law.
the weird laws. So the town I taught in had it's not even a weird law, it was a disturbing law that they still, it was on the books. They still permitted hangings in the town square via what you saw on the social media.
Yeah, and then it's gonna be one could do that, and people are gonna stand with us.
Yeah, they said
Yeah,
if
Mexico.
they can't do that, if they pull out again for like another event, it's gonna be war.
Yeah.
I don't know if that I saw one photo and it looked kind of photoshopped. I don't know how.
I saw this one photo. It was like the background. It was like,
And then somebody was standing on and taking a picture.
yeah.
I guess we'll find out in days to come.
Yeah, we'll find out the days come.
You know, I was like,
I can tell. I mean, obviously,
somebody said,
I can tell you that the realism of that being used at all is obviously I can never say never, but is extremely low.
oh yeah, and a group of other people, they watched it and they said, if that happened, they switched it to our side because they couldn't live without like black foods and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, oh,
Okay, so do consider this though, as bizarre as that comment is, there is something to be said about adopting culture into mainstream, because do consider this at least: jazz, R&B, pop, rock, all those major music genres, their origins in the United States, they're all origins of Black Americans. So like you really, America, that's kind of the cool part about America being America, is we take bits and pieces out of these subcultures and we kind of build it into our own little thing. The problem is not giving credit where credit is due. Elvis Presley didn't create rock and roll. Elvis Presley just knew how to swing his hips a few times. It was really kind of weird. And then died taking a crap on the toilet because of a drug overdose. But hey, you know, it is what it is.
yeah, but
I will ruin Elvis Presley.
Jackson is a real king of pop.
Who is?
Michael Jackson.
Well, even before Michael Jackson, I would say Jackson 5, which he was still a part of, but as a child. And even before that, go back in the roaring 20s, start finding some of the jazz musicians then that really set the precedent. And even before then, if you really go further back, and we'll talk about this in class, go back to the plantations in the
Yeah.
1800s, the songs that were developed by the people working those plantations,
Yeah.
that was the beginning of jazz and R&B back in the early 1800s.
Even the influence on what you guys listen to today is rap. I mean, you have the call and response. You can listen to some of those things that they would, because they were only permitted to say certain things and that kind of thing. So it became kind of like a language, and you hear some of those old recordings of the call and response and everything, and you can just hear how it's influenced our music today.
Yeah.
All the way to what you guys listen to.
Songs were created as a tool of communication between people working in the plantations.
Yeah, but when I started talking when like Tupac and Biggie and something started rapping.
True.
Who was it?
Which one?
Yeah, Tupac, Biggie, and
Easy
Dr.
E.
Dre.
Dre. Did you know Dre was in? Okay,
Yeah.
one, Dre's older. Do you know Dre went to the ICU because he had a brain aneurysm?
Yeah. He's fine.
He's fine, but like we missed that.
He spent $30 million to make a holographic of Tupac.
Yes, that is true. That is true. So I grew up, believe of all random side stories of Doherty. So I grew up listening to rap music, like early 90s rap music.
And then,
I don't know why.
Because it's the best.
And it,
That's
like,
my genre.
Old school rap is really, really good. I think it's because even in modern rap, for the most part, I'm going to hate a little bit on the mumble, but outside of them, the reason I like rap is because it has message. Like there's a story.
Well, you can go farther than the 90s. You go back to Dougie Fresh and.
Oh gosh, yeah. But like you're right though, because there's stories and there's narratives behind it. Some songs you listen to, someone brought up freaking Dolly Parton in first hour today. I don't hate Dolly Parton for the record. But seriously, if your whole song is Jolene, 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 that's not telling me a story. That's telling me something about some person named Jolene, and I have a lot of questions about that, and that's about it. So you're right in the sake of adopting cultures into our own. And that's kind of what makes America so freaking cool, is the sake that we work like that. We've taken all the aspects of what makes us unique and adopted them into our own practices just inside this country. So it makes us different from everybody else, quite literally.
And the American culture is the African American culture. I mean, like especially you go into the South, there were more African American slaves than there were